So let the speculation begin. By the way, I don't think I'm like losing my hearing, Eddie. Like all of a sudden, this little module over here, I can't hear anything. There we go. Barely hear that. Did you just play the? I got this on like J&V level. That's, you know what I mean? Usually when J&V has his headsets on, you can hear from a mile away. Anyway, let the speculation begin. Because we begin on this Monday, good afternoon to everybody here on Query & Company, to all of you in the company, with breaking news times 2 when it comes to your Indianapolis Colts. First, thank you, Eddie. The first is that the official depth chart for the first time this year has been released in anticipation of not only the Colts' practice against the Baltimore Ravens tomorrow, but also their preseason game number 1 in Baltimore coming up on Thursday. And we will break that down a lot over the course of today. But also, when it comes to the Colts, let the speculation begin. Let the games begin. Let the wild predictions, the in-depth analysis, the putting together, like connecting the dots that don't exist, let it all begin. Because the Jim Irsay estate in Carmel that was put up on the market, I believe within the last week, maybe 10 days, at a price tag of $12 million, as well as his property at Lake Maxinkuckee, a.k.a. Culver, in northern Indiana. Both already pending in sale for a cash sale above asking price. However, the identity of said purchaser has not been released. So let the games begin on trying to figure out who it is that made or is pending on making the purchase. Now, if you think about a couple of years, and I've always wondered this, somebody can help me out with this. Several years ago, it was early in the Andrew Luck tenure, there was a huge house being built in Johnson County, and everybody and their brother was trying to figure out who it was, and people were like, it's Andrew Luck. He's building a huge house in Johnson County. He's not going anywhere. He loves it here. He's going to live on this estate. And then it was, no, actually, that's Peyton Manning's house. They're not going to release him. Peyton Manning's building a house. He's living forever in Indianapolis. And I don't think it turned out to be either one. I know it wasn't one of those two. I don't know who it was that was building and bought the big mystery estate in Johnson County. But now, let the games begin. Eddie, if you had to who's the clubhouse leader on, and I have my own suspicion here, but who is the clubhouse leader on the name that is most commonly going to be linked that people believe is the person that bought or is trying to purchase over market asking price of $12 million, cash pending sale? Who's the clubhouse leader on the name that will be the most immediately linked to that?
I have no idea on names, Jake, like whatsoever. Like who's got that level of cash to pay over asking price?
Tyrese Halliburton?
Yeah, maybe.
Peyton Manning?
Really think he would buy a house in Indy?
Bernard Ryman?
Didn't get a big check.
Forrest Lucas?
Let me throw a curveball.
Okay.
Could it be like somebody who's looking to invest in a potential MLS team in Indiana?
Okay. Yes and no. Not a bad. And that's that whole discussion of the MLS thing has kind of cooled a little bit. You know, there's been a lot about that lately, but you know, I mean, McAfee's name will be thrown out as a buy. You know, is that who's going to buy it? But to your point, Eddie, I do think that it is possible. I think I told you. I was talking to Crozier the other day, and I was asking him about Los Angeles, and I'm like, it just fascinates me when you drive through Beverly Hills and you see all those homes, and you're like, what do all of these people do for a living? And Crozier said, well, like a third, and he's just throwing out a number. I mean, not legitimately, but he's like a large percent of those homes people blind purchase the zip code and hire a property company to upkeep the property, but no one lives in them. They're just empty houses that offshore investors, whether it be China, whether it be Russia, to be honest with you, but investors elsewhere are buying them just as an investment. And it is possible, Eddie, that this is somebody that has nothing to do with Indianapolis, Indiana, the Colts, or anything that is buying it just for the land. And they're going to put 5 $4 million homes in that area, and bada boom, they just profited $5 million. You know what I mean? That's entirely possible. Entirely possible. Or to your point, somebody living in the UK or somewhere else that is interested in being an MLS owner and feels this is the market they're going to bring a team. Possible. But let the speculating begin. People have already mentioned, I've seen Halliburton's name, Bernard Ryman, people were joking around about. It's definitely fun to think about, for sure. I want to thank, by the way, the American Dairy Association of Indiana for having me out to the Dairy Bar on Friday. Tons of fun. Great to see everybody that was out there. Had a lot of fun. And then afterwards, going around with David Woods and interviewing some folks and having fun with that. And then going over and doing Hammer and Nigel and stopping by to see them. It was definitely fun. Hey, Jake, I'll bet it was – I like this. I'll bet it's Jennifer, the former Watson's girl. Okay, possible. Jake, Peyton Manning bought that house just so he can demolish it. That from James. Possible? But anyway, a lot of fun on Friday. We are going to be back at the State Fair coming up on Wednesday. That is for the Indiana Governor's Cup. Look forward to that. You've been hearing us play some of the harness races. Can we play the guy that does the harness racing where we play the finals? Eddie, is there anything better than the beginning of his race calls? We get to hear all of his race calls. Can you play one of the beginning calls? I want to do this.
I got to find it.
I want to do this on opening lap of the Indianapolis 500 coming up in May. Honestly, like this is what I want to do exactly as this guy does. It is absolutely awesome. We've been doing that each and every throughout the course of the summer. We've been playing different races for the Indiana Sire Cup Championship, which is taking place at County Fairgrounds throughout the course of the state, and that all culminates with the Governor's Cup Championship, and that means this show on the 6th and the 13th will be at the Indiana State Fairgrounds, and I look forward to being there on Wednesday. Fever, while Eddie's queuing that up, Fever were in action last night. Do you have it, Eddie? Here we go. Let me do this. Just imagine they're coming to me in turn number 3 on lap 1 of the Indy 500. This is how I need to call. I absolutely love this, and I'm not being sarcastic. I love it. I mean, horse racing's fun. Harness racing is awesome. It's a part of Indiana, and you have fun with it, and these are being broadcast throughout the course of the state. This is how I need to call the field when they come to me in turn 3, lap 1 of the 2026 Indy 500.
The first of 3 divisions, Indiana Sired Fair Circuit. It's round 13 in the quest for the Governor's Cup. Frankfurt, the opener. It's showtime. There they go.
That right there. That's what I need. Can we get that one more time, please? As the field passes me, so they're coming at me. Pato Award's in the lead. He's the pole sitter. He's got 32 cars behind him. I'm throwing it to whoever's in turn number 4, in between turns 3 and 4, and I do it with this.
Showtime. There they go. Off and trotting.
See? I'm telling you. Love it. I love everything about it. Anyway, Fever yesterday, Eddie, you were on the pre- and post game. I thought, and I listened to the vast majority of that game, as a matter of fact, and they did what you want a team to do, and that is that they had that kind of 8-point lead through the third quarter, and then, Seattle made a run.
They did.
And it looked a little bit tenuous, and the Fever went to, on I think back-to-back possessions, exactly, you go to your bread and butter, and their bread and butter yesterday was undoubtedly Tosh Howard, who was really good, high percentage from the floor, 21 points. Every time they needed a bucket, she seemingly had the answer, and that was a quality win for them because they held off. It got loud in that place, man.
Yeah, it was like a playoff game, Jake, because look at how things are shaping up right now in the WNBA standings. 15 games left on the schedule for the Indiana Fever, and it is jam-packed. Like, there's a race for second right now, which not many people would have thought going into the All-Star break with how the New York Liberty and the Minnesota Lynx were pretty much the 2 best teams in the first half of the season. But the Liberty are dealing with some injuries. Brianna Stewart's injured. Kennedy Burke is injured. Niara Sabali's injured. Like, those are three, especially Stewart, three valuable pieces, a part of their rotation. And right now, the Fever are 5th in the WNBA standings. They have a 1-game lead over Seattle. And with that win yesterday, they have clinched the season series win, because that's even more important with how close these standings are, because now they have the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Storm. Both of those wins coming in Seattle. They have 1 game left, and that'll be here in Indianapolis in a couple of weeks. And right now they're a half a game out of 4th against the Phoenix Mercury, who they will face on this road trip that will conclude on Thursday. And then the Atlanta Dream are sitting in 3rd, or a game in front of the Fever, and then you've got the New York Liberty 2nd, a game and a half in front of Indiana. So despite the early season struggles and the up and down nature, Jake, there's still a avenue in which that the Fever could be the second best team in the WNBA by the time the postseason starts, especially with the way that they're playing right now.
Okay, again, right now, I mean, the way they're playing, you're right, hottest team in the W, right? And peaking at the right time. And then, of course, you get that conversation of the Caitlin Clark aspect of when she comes back, which will be fascinating to watch. We'll get more into that over the course of today. Let's get to the Colts depth chart. The Colts, for the first time this season, have announced their depth chart.
That is correct.
There are no major surprises on it, but let me read off to you, and we'll literally go almost position by position here. Not literally. I mean, that would take forever, but things of note, okay? Wide receiver. You have, on one side, you've got Pittman, no surprise, Ashton Doolin backing up, right? Other side of the ball, Josh Downs with Anthony Gould behind. No surprises there, right?
None.
Center's been an interesting one because Bortolini has taken the vast majority of the snaps to start the camp, but Danny Pinter has kind of not let that get away. And Danny Pinter right now is still shown as the backup with Bortolini as your starting center. Everything else pretty true to form. Exactly where you think it would be. Obviously, Smith, Gonçalves, I realize it's Gonçalves. I always get that confused.
It's a mental block. It's okay, Jake.
It's Gonçalves is how it's spelled. But yes, Gonçalves. Thank you.
Is it Gonçalves or Goncalves?
Guncalves?
Yeah.
Gonçalves. Dalton Tucker is listed as his backup. No surprise there. Quentin Nelson on left guard. No surprise there, right? The first curveball, if you will, on the depth chart, I think comes, and by the way, Alec Pierce, A.D. Mitchell are the other side receivers. So the slot is Josh Downs, and then the right side you got Pierce and A.D. Mitchell. A.D. Mitchell playing well, tapered off a little bit, but still a camp better than what you would, than the alternative. Because a year ago you were waiting for him to show things. He has shown things this year.
I know we're a couple of days away, Jake, from the first preseason game, and we'll get more clarity on this as the week goes on, but it sounds like the starters will not play defensively for the Colts. The starters on the offense will get a good amount of reps, and we'll probably have to make a list of like 5 players, like as an exercise, like, hey, these are guys that I am going to watch in the first game on Thursday night, because it sounds like most of the starters on the offense side will play, and, we should make the list without the 2 quarterbacks being listed on it, just because I think there are some things and players to be looking out for in that first game.
Well, that leads to so expand for me on what you mean of players to look out for.
So, like, for example, A.D. Mitchell had a very rough first week, but he's had a really, really good rebound, and he's playing really well in terms of practice. Now, can he put it all together? Because as people have mentioned time and time again, it's never been an issue on whether or not A.D. Mitchell can perform on the field during practice. It's about carrying that over onto the field on Sundays and in game action, just because there's still like this question mark of can he finish plays, just because it seems like he's afraid of to being hit in the contact right now, especially that's how he looked last year as a rookie. So would that be a guy that you're looking to watch closely on Thursday? Because he's probably going to get a lot of run, both with the starters, the second unit, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, because you know what you're getting out of Alec Pierce, right?
Yep.
So, okay. The first curveball to me is at the tight end position on the depth chart. Tyler Warren listed as the top of the tight end room. No surprise there. Mo Alley Cox listed second. Also, no surprise, especially if you go with the 2 tight end set, because he offsets a little bit what Warren. I mean, not that Warren's not a good blocker, but that's Allie Cox's strong suit. Is he is a blocking tight end. What's surprising to me a little bit is the 3rd tight end, because Will Mallory has played pretty well and gotten a lot of reps, but Drew Ogletree is still listed as the 3rd tight end, then Mallory, and then it gets interesting because Jelani Woods, who they have been oh so patient on, is listed then in 5th. And then you get into, what are they going to keep? 4, maybe 5, right? The big position of question is that of quarterback. And it simply says Daniel Jones, and then in all capital and boldface type, or Anthony Richardson, followed by Riley Leonard and Jason Bean. The Leonard Bean thing is peculiar because Bean is another one that they clearly like what he brings to the table, but I think they really like Riley Leonard. That is a position that you don't anticipate either of those guys playing, but you never know. You've got to have that position, and one of those two is going to nail that down. Defensively, nothing overly surprising to me that jumps out. Maybe the fact that Cameron McGrone right now is listed above Jalen Carlisle, who I know they're very high on at the linebacker spot. They list Zaire Franklin above Joe Bocci. Bocci has played very well to this point, but Franklin, coming off of the injury, I think we all know that when he is healthy, then, that is his job. Corner, Juju Brents is listed right behind Ward on one side. They do have Justin. Did we determine it's Wally or Whaley?
Wally. Like the movie.
That E, I'm telling you, that E in there throws me up. Justin Wally just above Jalen Jones. And Jalen Jones, of course, is injured, I should say. So, too, is Juju Brents. So, a lot going on in that position. The quarterback one is one that they're not going to announce anytime soon, obviously, for the obvious reasons. Then kicker is a little bit peculiar because that is a battle that is, they brought in competition there, and with the departure of Matt Gay, it is an open spot. Spencer Schrader is still shown as the kicker, and I think that's probably who it's going to be that wins that job. So there we go. That is the Colts depth chart. Overall, when I mention that to you, anything that jumps out at you, Eddie?
None, Jake. I think it's all pretty much expected. The one that is a little bit of a standout is the fact that Jalen Carlisle was not named as the starter next to Zaire Franklin and Joe Bocci. I think it's Bocci.
It's Bocci, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. It's Bocci, like the ball.
Isn't there
like
bocce ball?
Yeah. Yes, that's
what
how
is bocce ball? Do we know what bocce ball is?
So it's a game, Jake, where you can play this on concrete. You can play this on the beach. I've played this on the beach personally. You play with a group of people. Mm-hmm. You throw a ball out there, and then each player has their own ball, and the object is to be the closest to the bocce ball. That's it.
Okay, hold on. So you get like 5 people in a group.
Yes.
You're all standing around the beach.
Yes.
Everybody's holding their own ball.
Yes.
Okay, and then what happens? So you throw a ball in the air.
So you throw the bocce ball.
Okay.
You just throw it out there.
Okay.
And then the object is for all the players to throw their ball and try to be the closest one to the bocce ball.
So this is basically the throwing version of like shuffleboard.
Yes, or like horseshoes, I think. I think it's similar to horseshoes.
This is the dumbest game I've ever heard. I mean, what happens if you're playing bocce ball with Dave Parker? I mean, does anybody how do you get the close? Is the bocce ball heavier than the other balls?
Yes.
So it's like a medicine ball?
It's not really like medicine. It's more like metal or lead. It's heavier.
So it's like a shot put.
Yeah. There we go.
So it goes like 4 feet away, and then you just this is the dumbest game ever. Who came up with this? And how bored were you when you played it?
I was not bored at all.
How many people were playing it?
8.
I'm calling Mythbuster right here. You don't have 8 acquaintances.
I was in Florida for Olivia's family vacation.
There we go. So, okay. So Olivia's got 7 family members.
Oh, there's plenty of us playing. Oh, yeah.
Alec was home, your one friend.
We actually didn't have enough balls to go around.
Excuse me? So this was mostly the ants that were playing?
No.
Okay.
It was me, Olivia, her Her 3 cousins, and then a couple of her kids, her aunt, her uncle.
This is like funnel ball,
Dad.
which funnel ball we also determined is the most lame game ever, right? You just throw the ball into a thing, and then you see which thing it spits out. Dumbest game ever, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to know how your weekend was and what you did.
Let's see. So what did I do Saturday? I can't remember what I did Saturday, but I know yesterday I had the Fever game. I hosted Indiana Sports Talk Saturday night. I honestly can't remember what else I did on Saturday, Jake. What'd you do? While I try to remember.
You know, Friday night we did, this was funny. I had never heard of this. I don't know if this was a local thing or if it was a touring thing. My apologies for my naivete on this. But it was very, very cool. Shannon found this. I don't know where she even knew about this, but she bought the tickets.
I just remember what I did.
We went, what's that?
I went to Colts camp Saturday morning.
That's
Went
cool.
to practice, yeah.
On Friday evening, we went to the Scottish Rite Cathedral, which, I mean, I've been there. And that is a crown jewel location in Indianapolis. But we went to the Scottish Rite Cathedral, and inside one of the, what would you call it? Not auditoriums, but rooms there, they had a 4-string quartet, so 2 violins, a viola, and a bass, it was a 1-hour show, and they played Coldplay songs for 1 hour. And I'm not a huge Coldplay fan. I don't know that Shannon's a huge Coldplay fan, but you know every song. And, of course, they made a joke about the Jumbotron deal, whatever. But it was a candlelight thing. It was, like, dark, and then they had candles on the floor, and these 4 people came out. That sounds like low energy, but it was very, very cool. So we did that Friday night. Saturday night, went to the Rathskeller to see my buddy Michael and Jimmy and the Elect play, which is one of the best local bands. I think the best local band.
Now, you're not talking about Michael from Australia, are you?
No, this is Michael Weir from Warren Central, which is kind of the Australia of Indianapolis. And so we were there at, Ron Green, my buddy, was there. Paul the mailman was there. There's nothing better than the Rathskeller Beer Garden on a perfectly – I mean, the weather this weekend was absolutely fantastic. It was like San Diego. 363 days a year, it's like this in San Diego. But it was absolutely perfect, and it was a great environment, and to listen to them play was awesome. Everything about it was awesome. And then, like I said, yesterday ran errands, listened to the Fever game, and enjoyed that. That was an exciting game, and they are playing at a high level. For sure they're playing at a high level. But the attention now shifts, obviously, to the fact that the Colts on Thursday night taking on the Baltimore Ravens. They will have a joint practice tomorrow. They will then play on Thursday. We'll see just how many reps, and there's going to be a lot of speculation about which quarterback it is that starts that game.
You know what I can't wait for, Jake? I can't wait for that game to start on Thursday night, and you see Adam Schefter, you see Ian Rappaport, you see Mike Garafolo, you name it, whomever. Anthony Richardson gets the day 1 starting job with the Colts because he's out there starting in preseason game number 1.
What if they start Riley Leonard?
That'd be funny.
What if they start Riley Leonard? Like, we're just going to start Riley Leonard, but then, of course, then it will be speculation of which one's the first sub.
And, of course, we already know, Jake, that whomever starts game 1 will not be the starter for game 2 against the Packers in the preseason. Shane Steichen's already said that.
Are you ready for my prediction?
Yes.
I have a prediction that I feel fairly certain about. I have a prediction that when I say it, you're going to immediately think that I'm crazy. And then when I explain it, you're going to say, you know, that the meme that you see of the guy doing the pointing to his temple, like, yeah, you're thinking it here. You're playing chess. Everybody else is playing checkers. You're way ahead of the game. I'm literally. It wasn't raining when Noah built the ark. I have a prediction.
Okay.
On something that is going to take place on Thursday night between the Colts and the Ravens. And it's going to look one way. And you're going to immediately conclude thought in one way, shape, or form about something. But I think there's a deeper meaning. And I'm being totally serious. And I think that there's going to be a conclusion drawn with something. But you have to look beyond that. I'll tell you my prediction and my justification for it When it comes to the Colts, and I'm talking about the quarterback position, I'll tell you next. This from Paul the Mailman. Hey, Jake, they might as well start Riley Leonard on Thursday. He's going to end up starting a game this year anyway. Somebody else pointed out to me Riley Leonard will make a start this season for the Colts.
No way.
But I have a theory here and a prediction.
No way. I don't see that. I feel like they would sign a veteran if both Jones and Richardson went down.
Depends what the circumstance is.
I don't think there's any circumstance of Riley Leonard even being on the 53-man roster. He might be that emergency quarterback they elevate from the practice squad all the time.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but if they are, I don't think this is going to happen. But if, let's say the Colts, let's say they get off to a terrible start and you're into November or December and they have been eliminated from contention and Daniel Jones hasn't done anything for you and Anthony Richardson's hurt, do you not trot him out there just to see what you have? This is a franchise that started Sam Ehlinger.
Well, that was also by someone else's accord.
Understood. No, that's a very fair point. I believe. Let me tell you who I would start Thursday at the quarterback position. If Chris Ballard called me on the phone and said, Jake, Chris. Hey, Chris, how are you? Good, man, I'm good. And then he bats his eyes. And he says, I need you to tell me who to start at quarterback. You knew who I would start, and you knew who I think it would not. You knew who may well start on Thursday. Of the two, Eddie, which one do you think's the starter?
On Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
Without knowing who starts tomorrow, I don't know how to answer that question. I feel like whomever gets the majority of the reps in tomorrow's joint practice against Baltimore will be the one not starting in the preseason game.
I think Daniel Jones will start. I actually think Anthony Richardson will probably start. But it would not surprise me, and if it were up to me, it would be Daniel Jones. And you know why? Because let's analyze the Anthony Richardson situation. Anthony Richardson is a guy that when he was in college did not start a lot of games. But his athleticism, his size, his running ability, his arm strength just automatically catapulted him into being handed the keys to the franchise in the swamp for one of college football's most illustrious programs. Here you go. You're the starter at Florida. I'm not saying he didn't earn it. His physical traits absolutely earned it. But he still was learning the position. And when he got drafted by the Colts, the narrative was with Anthony Richardson, freak of nature, God-given talent, absolutely can do things that you've never seen before, sky's the limit, unlimited potential, high ceiling. However, big however here, hasn't learned the finer things. Not because he can't learn it, just hasn't had the time to learn it. And the Colts said, we don't care. Here are the keys. They didn't learn from the fact that he won 7 games at Florida and had a low passing percentage after basically, and yes, he didn't just walk in Gainesville and start, but his athleticism and his freak nature is what allowed him to keep starting at Florida. And the Colts, instead of working with him to develop him slowly along the way and teach him how to be a quarterback in the NFL, said, you are so God-gifted in your body and your arm strength and everything else. Here are the keys. Don't hit the curb. And he kept hitting the curb. And the Colts, if you look back on it, what will the Colts tell you? They will tell you that between the helmet tap and the taking himself out of the game, and what did we routinely hear? He just hadn't learned yet how to be what it meant. He hadn't learned yet what franchise quarterback means. He had not learned those things. And so this year has been all about, we've seen the throw off the back foot to Alec Pearson, perfect stride from 60 yards. We've seen the tuck and the run and turning a 2-yard loss into a 7-yard gain. We've seen all those things. But what we've also seen this camp, and yes, he had a weekend where apparently all of the good stuff we talked about going into Friday regressed again. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But we have seen for the first time in this camp that Richardson is starting to hit the layups. He's starting to find, even though he regressed, he has shown that he can hit those routine passes to a Tyler Warren, to a Josh Downs, etc. And so with all of that, what has been different this year than the past? What is different this camp than the previous camps that Anthony Richardson has walked into? This is the first camp where somebody else is pushing him, besides his coaches, besides his owner, his general manager. And I realize the ownership is under a different structure. I mean, I get that. But he now is walking in every day to practice and saying, there's somebody else here who actually could take what I was handed. He knew with Joe Flacco. I mean, Anthony Richardson knew. He's like, look, you can have Joe Flacco starting games for me, but Joe Flacco is closer to Joe Namath than he is to me. Like, this guy's going to be peddling life insurance policies to retirees on the Game Show Network in like 2 years. He's like 55 years old. He ain't going to be here in 3 years. And Richardson knew that. He's no fool. So for the first time now, though, he has somebody that is like, wait a minute, this guy might actually be taking what I thought was mine. And it was a good wake-up call for him. And that has to be considered a factor into why suddenly are the mechanics slowly starting to show themselves. Why are the reps starting to come to him and the footwork is better and the professionalism? And when I say professionalism, I don't mean that he's like sitting in the back throwing spitballs during meetings, but just in terms of everything that goes into it, of being the first in the building and the last to leave. And you know, it's more than just showing up at 8 and leaving at 5. And I think that Richardson finally, that wake-up bell, that alarm did go off, and it went off in the form of exactly what they have designed it to be, a quarterback competition. Do we really believe, and I know I've said all along, I thought Daniel Jones was going to be the starter this year, but I've walked that back because I think Richardson got the wake-up call that they were hoping he would get, and there is still too much intrigue there to walk away from. And there's too much invested in terms of reputation of the people that selected him and signed him and all of those things to just turn your back on that. So Daniel Jones was brought in for twofold. Number one, we got to get somebody that can push Anthony Richardson. And number two, if in fact that push still doesn't work, a guy that shows a capability that can play a style that is similar enough to Richardson that it's not a complete shock to the system to the rest of our offense. And so so all of that said, I believe Richardson is the guy that they are seeing as the clubhouse leader and they are envisioning. And when I say they, I mean the brass, not necessarily Shane Steichen. But, you know, Chris Ballard in general, I think is looking at it and saying, I still want to see what's there with Anthony Richardson, and that's the guy we're going to push in on to win with. But the best way to do that for right now still is the one thing that you don't know for certain is whether or not Anthony Richardson has shown the maturity now to understand that that needs to continue even if he has shown progress. And if you just roll him out there and say, he's our starter in preseason game number 1, the Colts are going to be worried about the fact of what that does to his psyche in taking back any progress that he had made because he was being pushed for the first time. And when they look back on the way that they handled him and brought him in and handed him the keys and just said, let's go, you're our guy, Chris Ballard would be the first to tell you, I think that was an error. They erred there. They should not have done that from the get-go. And so as a result of that, regardless, even if Anthony Richardson comes out and is literally a combination of Michael Vick, Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, Cam Newton, John Elway, and, you know, whoever else you want to throw in, they're all wrapped into one quarterback for this entire preseason, I think they're going to wait until the very end to hand him those keys again because they want him every single day being convinced that he has to work harder than he did the day before. And the way you do that on Thursday is by starting Daniel Jones. Now, having said that, watch, they're going to announce it like in an hour that Anthony Richardson is the starter, which actually I think would be a mistake because I don't mean a mistake in terms of X's and O's. I mean a mistake in terms of approach.
Is it that big of a deal who starts on Thursday, Jake? Does it matter that big of a deal?
Agreed. Normally, no. But symbolically, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's preseason game number 1. I mean, to your point.
Because to me, it doesn't matter at all.
Normally, no. I understand. But you are also not having to, for the 9th time, massage the way that you're dealing with a guy that you selected when the whole world was wondering which franchise. This is a franchise that went from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck to then kicking the can with Band-Aids for several seasons and going with several different Band-Aids.
Yeah.
Before finally the whole world was saying, okay, now for the first time in the tenure of this administration, you need to draft a franchise quarterback. And so they did, and everybody was wondering which of the 4 they're going to go with. Which now, granted, they were drafting, they had to wait and see what everybody else did. But they then said, no, we stayed pat where we were in that draft because this is who we would have taken if we would have selected number 1. So when you say that, your judgment, your clarity, your clairvoyance, your football acumen is all being tested to the balance on how this guy plays. And so in normal situations, Eddie, I would totally agree with you that it is irrelevant in the preseason, except for that each and every step of this preseason is centered around one thing, and that is continuing to try to develop and finalize the product that the football world is judging you on. And they are being judged on Anthony Richardson. We have tickets to give away, do we not?
We do. We forgot to do these last week, so we got to make sure we get them in.
You don't need to say that part, Eddie. We don't need the bosses to know that. We have tickets to give away for tomorrow night, right?
We do.
This is for Dropkick Murphys, right?
And Bad Religion.
Everwise Amphitheater, fabulous. The Lawn at White River, courtesy of our friends at Live Nation. We will do it next. If you would like to go tomorrow night to the show, 239-1070, 239-1070 is the way that we say it in short form. Call now. We will do it on the other side. Chap joins us, by the way, at 1 o'clock today. So about 18 minutes from now, we'll get more on this battle with the Colts and the quarterback position, but more so the depth chart and Mike Chappell's thoughts on it. Kyle Neddenriep going to join us midway through the 1 o'clock hour. Football underway, just in terms of hard to believe that from a high school standpoint. Guys getting back out onto the practice field, and he had a really interesting column of late on high school basketball as well. We'll get into all of that with Kyle Neddenriep. But tickets to give away, other side, 239-1070, telephone number, Query & Company here on The Fan. I'm excited to be back at the fairgrounds on Wednesday because I love the Indiana State Fair. Love it.
I sure hope the announcers there that we've had for a lot of these races across the state of Indiana.
If we're doing the show together and a large crowd of people goes past the table while we're broadcasting it, what exactly is it that he would say?
Hold on one second.
As I'm sitting there broadcasting, and here's the announcer for the Sired Fair circuit that's been taking place all summer, and the group of people walks past, he would say,
It's showtime. There they go.
The "there they go" is awesome. I mean, it's awesome.
There they go.
Yes, I love it. I mean, that totally fits horse racing, though. It totally fits horse racing and harness racing. I mean, like, because there's a very, if you've seen the movie Seabiscuit, the old school radio horse racing announcers, because it's a historical tradition laden. I mean this in a positive way. There's a very nostalgic, deep-rooted aspect to it, and that's what I love about that. It kind of pays tribute to that, and there's a rich history of it in Indiana, undoubtedly, absolutely undoubtedly. Tickets to give away for the Dropkick Murphys. This is going to be tomorrow night at the Everwise Amphitheater.
Do you think they walk out on stage and say,
Showtime!
Yes, they do. And then when they're done, just after the encore, as they leave the stage, the crowd says,
There they go.
That's right. 239-1070 if you would like your chance to win for the tickets themselves. Eddie, earlier when I asked what you did this weekend and you couldn't remember, somebody said that means probably a lot of gummies.
Yeah, I saw that. Just had the Fever game Friday night and went to Colts camp Saturday. Went out to dinner with Olivia Saturday, hosted Sports Talk Saturday night.
How was dinner?
It was good.
Okay.
It was nice.
Do we have callers that have lined up to go see the Dropkick? It'd be an awesome show. First off, any show if you've not been to Everwise Amphitheater at the Lawn at White River, it is awesome. Right across from, of course, Victory Field, and the way that the renovations they've done, it's just such a convenient venue in particular to go in and out of, and it's awesome. It is really a nice place. Who do we have lined up, Eddie?
So we've got a guy named Jason and a guy named what you and I aren't, Rich. So we'll start with Jason.
Hi, Jason. How are you?
How's it going, man?
It's going, Jason. Yourself?
Man, not bad, buddy. My radio station don't leave yours.
What's that?
My radio station don't leave 107.5.
Well, that's what we like to hear, Jason. I mean, this is what I call – now, here – I would say job security, but it sounds like you'd be listening whether it was me that was on the air or not. But I do appreciate it. Can we play a little get to know your listener real quick, Jason? Have you called the program before?
I sure have.
You have? Okay. So have we played get to know your listener with you?
No, sir.
Okay. Jason, if you don't mind me asking, how old a fella are you?
I just turned 50, man, a couple days ago, buddy.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, are you
Happy belated birthday.
Are you on the railroad tracks right now, or is that a train passing? What's going on there? Please be safe.
No, sir, man. I'm on a job site working.
Are you really? What sort of sort of work do you do, Jason?
I'm an electrician.
Oh, that's cool.
481.
Nothing wrong with that, man. How long you been with them?
Man, probably about 5 years now, buddy.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you're skilled on principle and union by choice, right?
You got that correct.
Yes, I love it, Jason. Okay, now, Jason, what part of town did you grow up?
Man, Greenfield, Indiana, with Josh Mullins, brother.
I like that. All right. His kid's a pretty good ball player, no question about that. Home of James Wickham Riley as well. All right, so here's the thing, Jason. There is nothing better, whether it be a Diet Coke, a cold beer, just one of the soft pretzels, whatever it might be. It is going to be a perfect night to sit there and watch live music, even if you don't know every song. Maybe you only know every other. Maybe you only know one. Maybe you know none of them. It'll be an awesome environment. It'll be a fun night, and I want to make sure that you are able to enjoy it, especially with the work that you're doing. And the best thing about it is if for whatever reason the electricity goes out in the show, then instead of having to do an acoustic show, you can just jump in and take care of that too. You're a jack of all trades, right?
You know it, brother. Got the tools in the trunk, ready to go.
Yes. All right, Jason, we're going to send you on about your way. Eddie will get all of your information, and we will send you to go check out the Dropkick Murphys. And again, aren't you proud of the fact that I knew that right off? Boom. Skilled on principle, union by choice.
I believe they are a big partner with us during the month of May.
They are. I enjoy every year doing the Indiana Construction Workers luncheon that I do. out at the chalets for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It is always a pleasure to do that.
Now, I misspoke, Jake. I said what neither one of us are is Rich, and he's who else we got for the tickets. Well, I am certainly not that. You are, because, like Derek has shared with me the pay stub that you left behind from IndyCar, so
That's right.
I know you're very well off.
Rich, what's up?
Doing well. How about you boys?
We can't complain. Rich, have you called the show before?
Yeah, I have called and talked to you guys one time in the past.
Okay, and you found that to be a good or bad experience?
Oh, it was a wonderful experience. I actually applied for an AI position, which was analogy interpretation, if you recall.
Oh yeah, well, and you love my analogies, right? The kids love them. I get a lot of comments on that when I'm out in public.
That's the main reason I listen.
I'm sure it is, Rich. Rich, is your radio broken? Be honest. Is the knob broken?
It is not broken.
Okay. Well, Rich, are you a fan of the Dropkick Murphys? Are you familiar with them?
I'm familiar with them. I have heard good things about them. Have not seen them. Would be excited to do so.
Who did you say was the other part of the show, Eddie?
I'm not sure. Oh, Bad Religion.
Yeah, which is also a great show, right? All right, Rich, we will send you on about your way out there. This is tomorrow night, correct, Eddie?
Yep, tomorrow night.
Eddie will get your information. Say hi to Jason when you're out there, by the way, okay?
No question. Keep up the good work, guys, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Rich is on his way as well. Big news of the day is the fact that the Colts have announced their depth chart for the first time this year. The quarterback, the one position that they are still being coy. No surprise there. Yes, it is true that the Green Bay game is the one that most would tip the hand as to who may be the starting quarterback come week one. But Mike Chappell joins us other side. We will go over that and more and find out if he's the guy that bought Jim Irsay's house. Pending sale, over market value, cash purchase for Jim Irsay's house. All of it with Chap next. Their first. Now, I have to say this, of course, unofficial depth chart of the preseason. No real surprise, except for that at the quarterback position, it simply says Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson. A couple of other spots we can discuss. Joining us now to do that and more, he is, of course, with CBS 4 WXIN Fox 59, the dean of all writers when it comes to the Colts. Mike Chappell joining us on the show. Chap, I'm sure you saw the depth chart released by the Colts. Before we get to that, I'm curious of this. Do you, and how many of us do you need to help you move? Because I saw that Jim Irsay's home it is a pending cash sale for over the asking price of $12 million. My understanding is it's about 25% more than that was offered in cash. And you move in when?
Well, I tried to lowball them, so my 5.5 mil cash.
Okay.
That I was gonna. I had large bills in the back of my car that I was going to take there, and they said, "Hey, yeah, right, buddy."
Yeah,
so,
that's right. And a couple of coupons too. You had coupons, right?
Yeah, I might have been able to rent the ice rink that I believe he's got, but or one of the guest houses maybe.
I've heard the two guest houses are fabulous. In all honesty,
of course
Chap.
they are.
What's that?
Of course they are.
Yeah.
Yes.
It does make you curious. I think that and there's going to be, you watch, I mean, there will be all kinds of speculation and guessing games as to who bought it until it's announced.
Right.
And I don't know that, but I don't think we can rule out the possibility, Chap, that an out-of-market simply investor purchased it just for the land itself, or to build two homes on there, or sell those again individually, whatever it might be, right? I mean, there's any number of factors that could go in.
Yeah, but to think you would do that and tear that place down, I understand what you're saying, but and again, that's a world I am simply not familiar with. I've got a rental property. We've got the wife and her brother have got two rental properties in Beach Grove we're trying to sell, and if anybody's interested, give me a call. And it's the land is important. That's what's valuable, not the houses that are on it. Boy, I just can't see an investor saying, I can put like 3 properties there or 3 houses. I just think that this is somebody that's got, God, I hate to say too much money in their hands, but maybe that's the case.
Well,
I don't know.
I've heard, some my understanding is there are some renovations. I mean, like any property. I don't mean that in a bad way at all, right? I mean, Jim Irsay owned it for 30 years, right? So,
yeah.
But then on top of that, I don't even know if there was an inspection. So I think it was, you hear people that blind purchase stuff like that just as an investment. So, we'll see. But it is fascinating. And then, of course, everybody's, it's Bernard Ryman bought it. Peyton bought it to tear it down, and, yada, yada, yada. But, all right, let's get to this. Let me tell you the one thing on the depth chart that I'm not going to say surprised me, but I thought was interesting, and that's at tight end. The Colts website right now has for their depth chart at tight end Tyler Warren, no surprise there. Mo Alley Cox, no surprise there because he can do some things that Warren, it's not that Warren can't do them, but that you wouldn't ask Warren necessarily to do as much,
right.
And that's being like, run game blocker, etc. I was a little intrigued by this, and I know he's a good player, but Drew Ogletree, one spot in front of Will Mallory. I think Mallory has had a really good camp, but do we read into that in any way, shape, or form, and how many tight ends do they carry?
Probably 4. And I would guard against anybody reading anything into the first unofficial depth chart because teams have to do it. We pay attention to it. But this isn't the first time the Colts had an or. I'm trying to think who it was. Last year, the year before, we had a couple of ors. Whether they were I can't remember what positions they were. But it's an interesting piece. And again, this is Matt Conti going in, I think, to the coaches and, hey, we need a depth chart. And each position coach says, okay, hang on a minute, and takes them, 30 seconds to jot down names. But it's a guideline is all it is. I am with you. The one guy that I've noticed in camp that maybe people aren't paying attention to is Will Mallory. I think he's had a really good camp. Drew Ogletree as well. But I think they keep 4 tight ends because when that's how Shane Steichen loves him some tight ends. He just hasn't had tight ends to really love the last, since Jack Doyle left. But Tyler Warren's been everything we anticipated. He dropped the ball the other day. I'm thinking, what in the hell did I just see? It was behind him, and he got one hand on it, and you expect him to make that catch because he'd made them. So, and it was interesting that for whatever you want to make of it, is Tanner Bortolini is the starting center ahead of Danny Penner, and they have literally divvied up the snaps at center, as has Richardson and Jones. But it's a guideline, and it gives you a little bit of insight, but not a lot.
At the receiver position, Mike Chappell is our guest. No real surprises at the receiver position. Pittman and then Ashton Doolin behind him. Then on the other side, Alec Pierce with A.D. Mitchell, who I think kind of resembles Anthony Richardson in the fact that he's made some good strides, but then also taken a little bit of a step back. What really I find bothersome is the receiver spot. You got Pierce, Mitchell, then DJ Montgomery, Blaine Taylor, and then Landon Parker. So my guy Landon Parker, just because he looks like Jeff Spicoli, that looks like he's got high odds stacked against him, right, Chap?
So you take offense to that on the depth chart?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's my guy. Landon Parker's my guy.
Do you hopefully you don't take offense where I say, man, you need to get a life. It's funny because Joel Erickson picks out a guy every camp, and it's a linebacker, a JK, I think it is, and we get on him about that. And the guy's had a pretty good camp. But no, it is kind of cool to find, because again, one or two of these guys are going to make it. I don't think receiver. They're going to probably keep 6 receivers on the active roster, and then they'll keep 3 practice squad probably. So your guy probably has a shot there. But I think it's a good thing that right now Ashton Doolin is your 5, and Anthony Gould is your 6, and that's a good problem, a good issue to have players who are both having pretty good camps at receiver, which is a good thing for Gould because he's been primarily a return guy, is playing really well given the chance on offense. So again, so many positions I like what's going on. Still not crazy about linebacker, and all of a sudden their proven depth at cornerback is getting tested.
Yes.
By hamstring injuries, and that's a little bit of a concern.
And let's piggyback off that, Chap. When you talk about hamstrings, that's a problematic area, right? Where like sometimes
Sure.
that can linger for guys. But typically speaking, or has there been any indication to this when you're talking about Jalen Jones and Juju Brents both? Has there been any hint at all, or even based on precedent, how much they would miss moving forward?
Only that Shane Steichen said that Jalen Jones was more. I think his term was more severe. You never like to hear the word severe come from a coach because they don't like those words. And we didn't get a day-to-day, week-to-week, or he's going to miss some time. And again, Jalen Jones needs work in this new system, but he's started, 27 games the last 2 years, so they know what they've got with him. Juju Brents, for crying out loud, he needs to stay on the field. And here's a case where he didn't. He was made available to the media one day, and then the next day he didn't practice because of the hamstring. So I hate to see it. At some point, the team just says, "I'm sorry, we can't trust you to stay healthy." They're not there with Juju Brents at all. But he and Daniel Scott, Jelani Woods, guys that have been hurt, you think, boy, these guys have got something, but they can't stay healthy. But cornerback, I think Jalen Jones is going to miss some time. That's Chap speak, not Steichen speak, just because of what Coach said. And again, Mooney Ward missed practice 1 day or 2 days, and apparently he's got tightness in the leg, which I assume that's a hamstring or whatever. And I tell you, these guys that are vets, that really anybody that has something, they hold them out. Whether it's DeForest Buckner one day had a foot issue, they held him out. So they don't push it in training camp and preseason. I think there's going to be a handful of veterans not play much in preseason defense. I'm saying, even though this is a new defense that need to play together, the Wards and maybe Cam Bynum and DeForest Buckner, for crying out loud. I know what DeForest Buckner can do. I know what Grover Stewart can do. They need some snaps just because you don't want their first significant work to be in the opener, but they will be limited, I think. Offensively is a different matter entirely because of the quarterback. And I heard you guys talking earlier about what they might do, what they will do. But again, Kevin Bowler and I talked about this, and I think that they need to have a quarterback decided after 2 games and then really peel back the starter and not play much in the 3rd game. And Kevin thinks they just need to play. And he's probably right.
Well, Chap, you probably heard what I was saying in this. I do think the starter is going to be Anthony. And I said when they signed him, I thought it was going to be Daniel Jones. I've flopped on that. I will admit where I was wrong, where I thought that.
You mean for the season opener?
Yes. And I think it's going to be Richardson. And they're going to give him, and you know, the sands are running through the hourglass here. But having said that, to me, the one thing that I think they would tell you is that they realized they erred in handing him the keys too early. And so
Chris Ballard has told us that.
Yeah. And so therefore, I think they are going to take the competition as late into the equation as they can to continue to push him and make sure that he does not. And again, I want to be very clear here. I'm not saying that Richardson is a bad guy, that he has, off-field issues. I'm not saying that. But in terms of his focus, you want him to, whatever they did to push him so far has more often shown that it is working as opposed to not. And therefore, you want to continue pushing him that direction for as long as you possibly can to keep him focused. Would you agree with that?
Boy, if I agree with that, then I'm pointing out a Richardson weakness in that he has to be pushed to do his job. And that was the problem the first 2 years is I guess in layman's term, there was too much enabling going on.
Right. That's right.
Right. Well, but you've got to be, this is his 3rd year. You've got to be past that. You just have to be. That's what the position coach is. Get on him and the coordinator get on him. But my goodness, if they need to push him in the 3rd preseason game so that he doesn't have a lapse, then you've got the wrong guy. You just do. I think he needs to start the opener because they have simply got to find out what they have. Can he stay healthy? Can he do the job better? I was looking here. I actually did some homework before the show today. And in 11-on-11 passing in camp, it's 9 practices. I've got Richardson at 58% and Jones at roughly 68%. I would take Richardson 58% all day.
I would agree. That's not a big enough separation for Jones to win that job.
No, and Jones has been, I think, what we thought, decent arm strength, not great arm strength, more effective underneath. He still holds the ball too long in my mind, but Richardson just gives you the shock plays. He does, and he's been better on the underneath things. He's still, gosh, I think it was Saturday. They played red zone in like the first session. He throws an interception in the end zone from like the 5-yard line, whatever it was. You can't do that. You can't. Of all the things you can't do as a quarterback, aside from pick sixes, you can't throw an interception around the goal line. You just can't. I was talking to Rick Venturi, and he said, "Do you trust him?" And I said, "Yeah, no, I don't." Just because of the short sample size I've got to go on. But my goodness, he's just his ceiling is so high. But at some point, again, he's got to do it. He's got to stay on. He's got to stay on the field. And so far, knock on wood, he's not missed time for anything. A sore shoulder and all that. If I'm him and I've got a sore shoulder, I keep it to myself. I realize if you're a pitcher, maybe you can't do that, but I think that part of it is he's past that because they've thrown quite a bit. But he's just looked better, I think, overall. with what he brings. And if he's 58% and he gives you the shot plays and he gives you, I don't know, 60 yards a game rushing, and he picks up 3rd and 7 with his legs or whatever. Now you got to cut down on the whatever it was, 12 interceptions or whatever it was last year. You can't have that with only 8 touchdowns. But they can just do so much more with him, and you need to find out. He either stays healthy or he doesn't. If he doesn't, you say, well, this is who he is. You know, a guy that's missed half of his games with injuries. And that's where you know, okay, we can't rely. But you need to find out. You don't find out by starting the season with Jones, who is going to give you a more of an even, line on how he plays. But and then what do you get with Richardson? You just don't know. So to me, he's done nothing to lose the job. I've always thought he would have to really have an awful camp, just an awful camp to not be the starter. And when we talk,
listen, in baseball, a tie goes to the runner. In football, a tie goes to the incumbent, right?
Well, it's like you got to knock out the champ, and I think that it sort of had to be what Jones, he either had to knock him out, which he hasn't done, or Richardson had to play terrible, which he hasn't done,
right,
which is encouraging. Had one bad day. I think it was Saturday was a bad day, a not really good day in pads. So I think that's encouraging, and how they're going to do it again. Steichen told us that both guys were going to play quite a good amount in these first 2 games. How he does it, we'll make a big deal, whether it's Jones in the opener in Baltimore and then the other guy, then Richardson in the second game. But they're both going to play. And I think what's interesting is with the quarterbacks playing as much as they're going to play, maybe, I don't know, 3 quarters, I don't know. Do you play your starting offensive line that long? It's because then you're exposing your other quarterback to playing with guys who have had an uneven training camp, although they'll be going against the other team's backups at some point. So really interesting. I would hope that I would think that how they do in games will carry more weight than 11 on 11 and 7 on 7 and how they go in meeting rooms. And I understand all that goes together, but how they actually play on Thursday night or Saturday night against the Packers, I just think that carries more weight. And I'm curious. I'm really curious how it goes. I've been encouraged by Richardson. I really have been, but I just can't get those first 2 years out of my head.
I know. I know.
That's my blind spot.
I mean, there's a little PTSD there, right?
Well, there has to be.
Not only from a consistency, but from an availability standpoint. Mike Chappell, our guest. Chap, I wanted to ask you this as well. A couple of years ago, and I'm not saying it was the right narrative. Maybe it was too trendy a thing to say. But we got into this, and I'm not saying you, but when the league started becoming really passer-friendly and they're throwing up Star Wars numbers and, Goff and Mahomes are having games where it's going into the 50s, and people started saying, well, the running backs become the fungible position. That's the position that you can just kind of get a guy off the street in week 8 and he gives you a good game, whatever else. Maybe we started to see the value at the running back position again in the National Football League. But I'm curious if you agree or disagree or can expand on it. In today's NFL, defensively speaking, are we entering into an arena now where defensive backfield is hyper important, pass rush is important, and thus your linebacker core is the one that can be for you the most pedestrian?
Probably, although you need to have, you give me a Shaq Leonard, when in the second and third year, or even rookie year, I'd take that in a heartbeat. Middle linebacker, tackles, maybe. Now, if you're Zaire and he had the second team All-Pro last year, we didn't get 3.5 sacks and 11 tackles for loss and a couple of interceptions. That's different. Just don't give me tackles, because those can be, how many tackles were down the field, whatever. But yeah, you better have 4 corners that you trust. You better have 3 safeties that you trust, because that's what teams are going to. Kenny Moore, holy smokes, his value as a nickel is off the charts. They think the Justin Wally kid can kind of be that. He
Listen,
can play inside, outside.
Wally's been impressive, though, and they've made no bones about the fact they've been impressed with him, right?
Right, but again, and then when you have Mooney Ward, who can be that shutdown guy, think back to Vontae Davis, the late Vontae Davis. He was pretty good. A couple of Pro Bowls, and the 1 year with Stephon Gilmore. They've not had that guy often enough, and they again, the injuries are a little bit of concern because all of a sudden guys, Sam Womack, who's like your good fifth guy, all of a sudden he's playing more. But again, it's early preseason, and except for the running back yesterday in Jalen Jones, they've really avoided the major injuries. Knock on wood. Hopefully,
I was going to say knock on wood, right?
I know, but so yeah, it's with the running backs. I think I've always valued Jonathan Taylor. Now I don't know how long I would value him. 5 years, 6 years, because there is an expiration date on running backs. Although Derrick Henry would tell you to go fly a kite because there hasn't been one on him. He's an alien like Jerry Rice. But I think the Colts have absolutely wasted 2 outstanding years by Jonathan Taylor. It still boggles my mind that he rushes for 1,800 yards and you don't make the playoffs. But they're gonna maximize his talents, and they should. I may have mentioned to you, I was shocked when someone posted a note that he's averaged 89 yards in his career. That's the highest active yards per game in the NFL, higher than Derrick Henry. So it just shows you, yes, he dropped the freaking football at Denver, which killed him, but he's a quality player, and they're gonna lean on him a ton. I hope he stays healthy enough. I like DJ Giddens, the rookie. He's looked pretty good. So, but yeah, you're right. It sort of has swung to where you're valuing pass rush. You're always going to value that, and they've had a really good pass rush the last week or so. Now, is that good for them, or offensive line pick up your game? Leatu Latu has had a great camp, absolutely great camp, and they need him to be the guy, not just a guy. They need him to be kind of like the tip of the spear, and then all of a sudden you're okay with Kwity Paye getting 8 or 9 sacks and Buckner giving he'll give you 8 sacks as long as he stays healthy, because that's who he is, and get some from Ebukam. So but Latu needs to be the guy, and he's dominated training camp. He just has. But pass rush, cover, quarterback and running back, and then got the receivers are just going off the charts as far as pay. So, but yeah, it has swung a little bit to where we're not seeing 400-yard passing games like we did back in the day. It has swung a little bit to more of a controlled passing game. So you need to have corners. You need to have to where you're going to play maybe 2 linebackers and an extra DB most of the time.
Mike Chappell, CBS 4 WXIN, Fox 59, where you see his coverage. And, of course, Colts getting set Thursday, preseason game number 1 against the Baltimore Ravens. Chap, appreciate it as always. Talk to you soon, all right?
Talk to you next week. You guys be well.
I appreciate it. Mike Chappell joining us. By the way, Eddie, I have another, Landon Parker is the guy that I honed in on. I got another one on the Colts when you look at the roster.
Okay. Is it a Joe?
I like that, too. I do. But, no, this one. Yes. If you, Eddie, if you could, please. I know Kyle Neddenrip's going to join us next, but could you look at the roster and determine for me the one player that looks like he might bring his ascot to a Shakespearean poetry reading?
Let me look at the roster first.
Based on the names. There's one individual based on the names that just sounds like he might be somebody that's out playing a little polo. Would you like to guess who that might be?
I got to look at the roster first to figure this out. Hold on.
He actually just went out and bought himself a Peterson's pipe.
Liam Anderson?
Nope. That's a good one, though. This guy, I know nothing about this guy. I'm looking at his picture and I'm looking at his bio. I know nothing about him except for that I just based on his name alone, it's like, yes, I actually went out fox hunting over the weekend. I was over in Yorkshire.
I don't know who you're referencing.
Lovely tea.
I don't know who you're referring to.
I would like for Colts fans right now to go on the Colts roster, look over the list of names, and tell me which player, if the character that I'm portraying there, if this were a play, and I had to pick the name of one Colts player, the one that most aptly fits the guy that I just described. Yes, that's correct. This guy's name sounds like he would talk like this and perhaps go out to the Highlands on the weekends. Who might that be? Just take a look at the names and send me your guess right now. Text it to me at 523-9288. Yes, it's a 317 area code. Kyle Neddenrip's next. Several people got it correct. There are a couple of serious candidates on the Colts roster of names that sound, in fact, like Thurston Howell. Neville Gallimore, somebody pointed that out. That's a decent guess. Duke Shelley, decent guess. But the runaway winner. Yes. Let me introduce you to my son, the third, because I'm, or my father, the third, because I'm Ulysses Bentley the fourth. Ulysses Bentley the fourth absolutely sounds like a guy that, like, if he doesn't make the Colts roster, goes back to the Polo Grounds, right?
Oh, nice drop there. Polo Grounds. Nice.
Well, I don't mean, Eddie, the old baseball. I'm talking about, of course, where we ride the ponies and hit the sticks on the highlands near Sheffield. That's what Ulysses Bentley the fourth sounds like he would, I would think he would sound like, just based on the name. Joining us now, and I'm sure thrilled to be doing so, Eddie, I believe you have the proper introduction for him, correct?
Speaking of lost and clueless, we bring on Kyle Neddenriff from the Indy Star.
Yeah, he joins us now on the guest line. Indianapolis Star, Kyle Neddenriff, of course, the high school writer for football, basketball primarily, joining us now. And I want to begin with that, Kyle. It is, man, it happens earlier and earlier, right? But basically, high school football season is upon us.
Yeah, the official start of practices today, which is sort of a unofficial, I would say anymore, because most teams are practicing, or all teams are able to, under the rules now, able to practice and do things throughout the spring and summer. So it's sort of more of a symbolic start, I would say, but it is the start. And, teams are, unable to, you can't have pads on today, tomorrow, but then get after it on Wednesday. And then we'll be here basically a week from Friday with the scrimmages, and then the following week with games. So yeah, it's definitely it's here, and it's always fun because the start of school kind of coincides with football and kind of signifies a new year, and I always look forward to that to kind of restart of not only the football season but the school year for all these kids going back to school now.
By the way, Kyle, before we get into that, I'll let you enter the same arena that Mike Chappell was just in, because there's going to be all kinds of speculation. Because Jim Irsay's home has a pending sale, a cash sale at over asking price, do you want to wager on who it's going to be?
Oh, boy. It's not Chap, is
it? That's right. So he got out of the print side of things, got into the TV money, and now
exactly.
All of a sudden, let's go, right?
The money rolls in.
That's right.
Gosh, I would, man, I would venture somebody in the sports arena maybe, but yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know where to start.
I think clubhouse leader on this is outside market investor, blind purchase investor.
Yeah, that could be. Man, that speaking of that, the full court indoor basketball court was, man, how awesome was that? It was like, man, they should actually play high school games in there. That's
how about the hockey rink?
That's how cool that place was. Yeah, exactly. I mean, man, my goodness, what a life. That's super cool. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know where to start.
Everybody, Tyrese Halliburton, Bernard Ryman.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to guess out of country investor. That is strictly a guess and probably a dumb one. Kyle, when it comes to, and I know you have your article up right now, 8 things we're looking for here in terms of high school football for the year. And it is early, but practice getting underway today from an official standpoint. Aside from the obvious power hitters that we talk about every year, is there a school or a team that it looks like this year you are intrigued by because they could make a real jump that maybe in the normal season we don't talk a lot about?
Yeah, I mean, you're probably talking more 6A, as we get started here. But I would say, from a standpoint of a team that, has been a little bit off the radar, but has been building, I would say, and I'm not saying they're state title contenders necessarily, but maybe could be, is probably Pike. They're a team that has been, on the rise here these last couple of years under Mike Brevard, who came from Fort Wayne but is really from here. Has a really unique backstory, by the way. But he's kind of got that program going in the right direction. They were 5-5 last year, and sort of a slow build from 1 win to I believe they had 3 the next year and then 5 last year, and have started to get some continuity. I saw them play Fishers last year and beat them in a really good game early in the year. But they still have I would say to be a state contender in 6A is just really tough. I'm not sure if they're that to that level just quite yet, but maybe getting there closer to that. One team that we do talk a lot about or have in the past who maybe fits this category is Carmel, which they've kind of been a little bit down these last couple of years. They were 3-7 last year, but have Kevin Wright back as coach. And after a decade of sort of being out of the state, or at least out of the high school football in the state, I really think he's going to get that program going, and he just doesn't lose, so you kind of assume they're going to be, and they do have a lot of talent. So, I know Carmel's not necessarily an upset pick by any means, but maybe considering that they have only had 3 wins, last year, and then we're 5-5 the year before that, there may be someone who fits that, distinction a little bit. But I think they're going to be, we'll find out early in the season because they play Fishers and Westfield right off the bat. So, we'll kind of see where they're at. But I would say they might fit that, kind of that sleeper, as much as you can put Carmel as a sleeper in any sport, but they might fit that category right now.
Kyle, when you look at your time in covering high school sports in Indiana, this is season number what for you?
I believe it's 18.
Okay, I was going to say, 17. Yeah, so 18, right? So in the time that you've done it, and this is kind of maybe this is a getting into the weeds question, but I am curious. The rules of enrollment in Indiana high schools are different than they were traditionally 30 years ago. You live in this area or this township, you go to this school, or you go to a private school, kind of end of story. Now, with the ability to go to, with all of the charters, or the ability to, with select school to go to a different township than where you live, etc., has it made consistency of high school athletics harder to predict? And I know that they have transfer rules with the IHSA, and the IHSA does the best they can to try to preserve all of that. But just how big a variable or challenge has that been versus, say, 15 years ago?
Yeah, and especially now, with the change that was made with the first-time transfer rule, and that'll have to play itself out, and we don't have any data on that just yet, but some schools are, and I think more and more schools now definitely are open enrollment. Some schools even now though are still, they don't take kids from out of the district. So I think that will, more and more schools are the other way now, where they do take, and now that you can go out of district, it's I think advisable that you probably should, allow kids to come in if you have room for them, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit more, and it's always in this area, to be honest, it's always been a little bit more fluid as far as kids moving around and going, whether they're actually physically moving or, switching schools. It's always been, I think, in central Indiana and Indianapolis especially, a little bit more of a transient situation, and I think it's maybe become a little bit more all over the state now. But it's, I think there are kids definitely who, are in a situation, especially now, where you can transfer or get a first-time transfer. You're going to see more of that, where, hey, I may not be playing at this school, I'm going to go over here and where I can play. And that may be more of the transfers that you see rather than the huge names, the kids who are big names transferring. It may be more of that in the future, based on this rule, what this rule is. I don't know, I still think in football, though, it's so hard to, like what Pike is doing or other schools have done with trying to get your program on the map. It's just really hard when you're battling those year in and year out powerhouses that are always good, because football is a numbers game, obviously, and kids want to go to those schools or be involved in those schools that have had the history and have the tradition, and you're kind of fighting an uphill battle in football a lot of times because it is such a numbers game and that sort of thing. But so it's a little bit easier, I think, in football maybe than other sports to predict who will be good. That said, though, 6A is always hard, because it's like it kind of changes hands all the time. It's really hard to win back-to-back championships, and there's just so much quality in 6A around, especially around here. It just kind of it's not a big group of schools that it changes hands from, but they definitely battle each other for that top spot, and that's what makes it so fun and so good is just the competition at the top of that class. And I think we'll see that again this year. It's just not a lot that separates that top team from the rest.
Kyle, when you look, Kyle Neddenriep is our guest from the Indianapolis Star. You know, part of your, I'm going to say off season in air quotes, but between, you know, the basketball and football seasons that are your primary beat, you did a really interesting series here, Lost Gems of Indiana. And going around and seeing just some of the old historic gyms, which one is the one that most awed you when you walked in?
I really like most of these I've been to, probably all of them. We did 10 of them, so we're at number 8 right now. So we have 2 more to go. You know, I tried to pick out. I did a book many years ago on that included a lot of these gyms. I think probably all of them but one were in the book originally. So most of these I've been in before, but I would say, you know, the Jasper, the Cabby O'Neill gym, just because they've done so much work to it, volunteer work, and you know, that gym was sort of on its last legs. It appeared, and then it was actually needed once they had a storm that basically, you know, they couldn't use the Jasper gym that they'd built, so they moved the games back there. This has been about 10 or 12 years ago, and actually used it, you know, for a full season as their home gym again. And now it's part of their, you know, community again. It's used by different teams. So that one's really cool, and it sort of incorporates, you know, some of the old, you know, they have the old green bleachers, about a row of them anyway, that are still in there that you can see. They have a lot of the newspaper articles framed up on the walls, you know. So they've done a good job of sort of incorporating the old with the new in that one as much as you can with an old gym. But probably my favorite's Economy, which is in Wayne County, and it's a little town that's barely a dot on the map. But they have a wood frame, white. It looks like a barn, you know, if you're driving on the highway there and happen to drive by it. But it is so small, basically, you know. And the cool thing about what we're able to do is coordinate to interview people in the gym as they're sitting there on the court. And you know, there was probably 4 or 5 people who, you know, were crying when we talked to them about these places, and that was, you know, just really neat to kind of invoke that emotion of being back in those places, and that happened at Economy with a couple of the people we talked to. But you know, that's just you walk in there, and I walked in there probably almost 20 years ago now for the first time, and there was a pickup game going on when I went in there, and I couldn't believe it that they played high school basketball there. It was just so small. The out of bounds lines are the walls at the, or one wall at the end of the court. That's just so tiny. So you know, so that one's really special to me, unique to me, and you know, I really enjoy that one. But you know, it's really all of them. The Versailles gym, the Tyson Auditorium that was in today's edition. You know, that one's got a lot of history from the Milan team playing there in their home games in 53, 54, because their own gym was too small. So that one's really neat as well. So I would, you know, one of those, Versailles, Economy, Jasper, those were all really, really fun ones to go to, but they're all special. They're all, you know, I've enjoyed just hearing the memories of all of the people we've talked to, and just getting in those places again was just a lot of fun.
Economy just to the northeast of Hagerstown and just kind of northwest of Richmond, Indiana is where that small town is. Kyle, appreciate it as always. Look forward to talking to you over the course of the season, all right? And by the way, if it makes you feel any better, 3/5 of the people that I interview also end up crying. So, I mean, that's, you know what I mean? We got that in common.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate it, Jake. Anytime. I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate it. Kyle Neddenriep joining us from the Indianapolis Star. A lot of conversation about the Colts, but really cool last night what took place late in the afternoon in Seattle. We'll get into that coming up at the bottom of the hour. Is that right? 2 o'clock hour?
Top of the hour.
Top of the hour. All right. So about 12 minutes from now, we'll take a look back on something that happened in Seattle, and it does not involve Eddie and watermelon candy. We'll do that at 2. I kind of feel like I want to do the rest of the show in my Ulysses Bentley the Fourth voice. What do you think?
Oh, please no.
Huh?
Please no.
You don't think it? Yes.
I think it would hurt your jaw because you go to the underbite.
Yeah, well, that's correct. I do. It's a look, right? But doesn't the name, doesn't that just sound like Ulysses Bentley the Fourth?
It sounds like a politician.
I think anything the Fourth, right? Now, I'm pretty sure on this, and I think we've discussed this before. The difference between a junior and the second. Do you know what that is?
I'm looking it up for.
I believe this is correct. I'm not looking, but you tell me if you're looking it up. I believe junior is direct succession, and the second simply means you are named after a previous relative, but it doesn't necessarily mean direct descendant. Is that right? So in other words, a guy has a son. Henry Smith has a son and names him Henry Smith. That's a junior. But if Henry Smith, somewhere along his family line, he is the great uncle of somebody who's like, man, I just loved my Uncle Henry. And so when I have a child, I'm going to name him Henry Smith after my uncle. Then that becomes Henry Smith II. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, can you be, if you're a junior and you prefer to go by the second as opposed to junior, can you do that? Or is junior, are you legally bound to be a junior if it's named direct? And the other thing, too, I think that comes into play is whether or not, can you be a junior if the middle name's different?
No, I don't think so.
So middle name, all of it has to be the same.
I thought so.
Now, and I'm not going to say what it is. I think most people know, but I'm not going to say it. But my birth name is different than Jake.
Yeah, Jerome, I know.
That's right. But my mom and dad started calling me Jake. There were so many of I'll just say it, I guess. So there were so many Jasons born in 1972 that when I was like in probably preschool, there were a ton of Jasons. So my mom started calling me Jake to differentiate from all the Jasons. My dad, I think, had worked with a guy named Jake, and they liked the name. So I've never known, ever. I've never answered to Jason. It's my official birth name, but that's it. And I've never gone by that. And when I was probably 35, I said to my mom, I'm like, I think I'm going to legally change my name to Jake because everything I have says Jake, everything. Except for my driver's license and like if I go to court. And my mom was like, what? We gave you the name Jason. And I'm like, well, you gave me the name Jake also. But I am curious. So if you're a junior, what if you just want to be the second? Or if you're the second, what if you want to be a junior? Or you want to change your middle name? But Ulysses, I can tell you, Bentley the Fourth. Now, you never hear of a fifth. You ever notice that? Except for George Foreman. Wasn't there like 7 George Foremans? You never heard of somebody that's the 6th. Like, what happened? At some point, did they just drop it?
I don't know. Maybe like, oh, yeah, we're done. We're done
you
here.
never hear anybody. It always goes to the 4th. A.J. Foyt the 4th. Ulysses Bentley the 4th. Right? But you never hear of a 5th or a 6th, except for royal families, maybe? There's only one Eddie Garrison.
There's not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can look up how many people have your name.
Are you a junior or a second? There's another Jake Query, lives in Noblesville.
There is a
younger guy.
Only one of my significant others. She's the only one named her first and last name.
By her spelling or in general?
By her spelling.
So her spelling is unique, though, right?
It is very unique.
Okay. Is that why?
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. Did you say we're talking fever next?
We are. We're not talking about the temperature.
Last night, big win. Yesterday afternoon, technically, in Seattle. The guy that was on the radio call for it will join us to recap it all, and we'll let you know the latest on Caitlin Clark next. John Nolan on the call last night, technically yesterday, late afternoon. Fever winning in Seattle over the Storm, and each time that Seattle, in fact, did try to call it a comeback, the Fever would weather the storm. See what I did there? But it was solid, and I thought in listening to the game, thank you, Eddie. In listening to the game, the one thing that, and I listened to John for the better part of the second half as I was out running errands yesterday. And, John, one of the things that really jumped out at me, and this is what I really like about this team, is the fact that they are now getting it from multiple areas. And by that, I mean different players on different nights. I thought last night Natasha Howard was fantastic. And each time they needed a basket, seemingly she is the one that they went to. And that balance is making them very dangerous. You agree with that statement, and thanks for joining us.
Hey, Jake, thanks for having me on. Thanks for listening yesterday. 100% agree. And I know you had Pat Boylan, TV voice of the Fever, on last week, and he made a comment bringing up sort of a parallel to what we saw from the great Pacers run this past season, and he was talking a bit about how the Pacers had weathered the injuries in the first half of the season and then got it going. And another thing that really does give you those Pacers vibes here is what the Fever are doing right now, is how you don't really know who it is that's going to step up and have the big game. So how about this? Last Sunday at Chicago, part of this 5-game winning streak for the Fever, unbelievably, Tosh Howard didn't score, didn't even have a rebound. She wound up not playing too much. That was a game when the rookie KK Timpson came off the bench and had the best game so far of her career. But Tosh, great teammate. I think she had a post on social media afterwards about how, hey, this is the type of team where, we're happy for each other. So one night it's going to be somebody's, time to step up. Another time it's going to be somebody else's. So, yeah, yesterday Tosh at Seattle, 21 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists too. And as we talk about how it is truly a team right now, especially with Caitlin out of the lineup, and how you don't know who really is going to have a great game. Yesterday was an off-shooting performance for Kelsey Mitchell, but one thing that really just epitomizes the team effort here is the assist rate. They assisted on 27 of their 32 made shots. That's more than 80% of their baskets. That is a pretty insane assist percentage to have, and it really just epitomizes what they're doing here.
Do you look, John, if you look at the way things have come together for them, are they schematically doing anything differently in terms of, and I know you have to adjust when you have somebody that is as important as Caitlin Clark not on the floor, but in terms of their ball distribution or getting the ball to operating areas, are they schematically doing things differently?
Yeah, it's a good question. And so they certainly here at their best of late. Steph White puts it as, making the ball pop and the ball movement side to side. And there are some possessions where it's like no one even dribbles. I think schematically, though, one thing that from the first go-around when Caitlin was out and without Caitlin, all of a sudden the pace took a pretty dramatic dip. It was like a split of when Caitlin was playing, they had the fastest pace in the league, and then when Caitlin wasn't playing, they were towards the bottom of the league in pace. Now, you really do have to give a lot of flowers to Ari McDonald, who is as quick as anyone up there with Kelsey and Caitlin, and so schematically, they haven't slowed down their pace since they now have gotten Ari fluid here and, on this rest of the season contract. So schematically, it's not night and day difference. They're able to have Aaliyah Boston now as a big facilitator. I mean, again, when you look at the individual assists yesterday, McDonald had 9, mentioned Howard had 5, Mitchell had 5, Aaliyah multiple assists too. So schematically, it hasn't had to be a great change now that they've had Ari McDonald holding the tide at point guard.
Typically, John, and I'm curious if you've ever realized that you're in this fraternity, I don't typically trust people with 2 first names. You're a guy with 2 first names. Do you think of that, or is Nolan not a common enough first name for you?
Yeah. Obviously, here as we talk on sports radio, Nolan Ryan, one of the most iconic pitchers of all time. But I don't feel like I run into a lot of Nolan.
Now, I trust Nolan Ryan, and that's a guy with 2 first names, interestingly enough. But so
my fastball is like 45 miles an hour. So
I'm coming up with a new rule on this, okay? In order to be somebody that is categorized as a guy with 2 first names, the last name has to be the more common first name of the 2. So Nolan Ryan counts because Ryan is more common than Nolan, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But Nolan's not more common than John, so I think you're safe.
So you don't trust? I am safe or not?
No, I think you're safe.
Okay. I was gonna say it's still morning hours out on the West Coast. So the brain's not fully firing here yet. So I'll or maybe you can debate ever. But I'll take your word for it here.
Technically speaking, Eddie Garrison, guy with 2 first names, don't trust him at all, right? Isn't that right?
Yeah,
Garrison Carr,
you
know. I'm just saying for what it's worth. John, what does happen when Caitlin Clark comes back? Look, she's a great player. I get it. I mean, there is not a world out there where you would not want her on the floor. But at the same time, they are playing so well right now. And how much of that is out of necessity of having to distribute, having to balance without her out there? And how intriguing is it going to be when you have to, not have to, but when you then bring her and acclimate her back in?
Yeah, I think the perspective to probably have right now is that it's awesome to see what the team has been able to accomplish here without Caitlin, a 5-game winning streak for the first time in a decade. And so they're showing that clearly here, even unfortunately without Caitlin, they're a playoff team. And for that matter, rising up in the standings currently in 5th and only a half game out of 4th and just 2 games out of the 2 seed as it currently stands in the WNBA. But I think the perspective to have is that with Caitlin coming back, fingers crossed, I mean, it seems like she's on track to later this month, all of a sudden now the team would have the ceiling of perhaps being a title contender. So again, Minnesota Lynx right now, they're on another level from everyone else in the league, even though the Fever did beat them in the Commissioner's Cup championship game without Caitlin. But I think the perspective is that now when Caitlin comes back too, she's going to have less pressure on her, over the course of her career, whether it was at Iowa or last year as a rookie. She's kind of felt probably like she needs to do more than typical. Whereas now I think, she's able to witness, the strengths of everybody else and, perhaps can be even more of a facilitator than she already was. I mean, she was already second in the league in assists per game, but, recognizing that she's not going to really need to be forcing things.
John Nolan is our guest, radio play-by-play voice of the Indiana Fever. Fever winning last night in Seattle. Eddie, what time did that game end?
4, 5?
I keep saying last night. I mean, it was technically late afternoon, right?
5:15, 5:30.
Yeah, afternoon game. John, it was loud in that joint, man. Like Seattle, and I know that Seattle has been, a really good location for the W, but you mentioned it that I think you said that the upper levels were only 60% full, but even still, at one point, I mean, it got raucous in that place in the late third.
Yeah, it really was a tremendous environment, and while it wasn't a sellout, they still did have over 16,000 fans, and credit to the fans in Seattle, where they're tied for having one of the most titles in WNBA history, so they've got a rich tradition. They have their own fans. Of course, it's been fun most road games this year for the Fever. We joke about how it feels like a home game, and while there were lots of fans there wearing Fever attire yesterday, I mean, I think it was a pro Seattle crowd. You could hear that, right? And yeah, I mean, that also makes yesterday's victory for the Fever even more impressive because Seattle made some runs in the second half and, got within a point there down the stretch, had chances to tie the game. And, well, as you put it, the Fever weathered that storm.
Listen, I was pretty proud of that when I came up with that. That was off the top of my head too, John. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, all right, Jake, we're friends now. How about a text here when you get that one, during the game yesterday, so I could drop that in.
Listen, hardly original, I realize, right? I mean, I will admit that. By the way, aside from obviously within your responsibilities, WNBA-wise, how many times have you previously been to or been able to experience Seattle?
Yeah, I'd never been to Seattle until the 2 trips here for the Fever this season, and now coming to you from L.A., where I'm also visiting for the first time.
Really? Never been to L.A. before?
Never been to L.A. Had been to California, San Francisco, San Diego, San Jose, but first time here.
Okay. I'm going to ask you, John, before we get back to the Fever, I'm going to ask you a Jake Query L.A. question, and I want you to answer it with all honesty, okay?
Oh, boy, okay.
After going and seeing Oasis in Manchester and, like, still reliving it because they were 2 just unbelievable shows, and they are going to be playing in early September at the Rose Bowl, okay? So because of just the beauty of Pasadena, the Rose Bowl itself, iconic venue, I just decided, you know what, I'm going to do it. So I bought a ticket by myself Okay, Shannon didn't want to go. So I bought a ticket by myself to fly to L.A., buy my solo, one ticket to go to the show. And when I get out there on Saturday morning, I'm going to fulfill my quest of going and finding the Spahn Ranch where the Manson family lived in the old Western movie ranch set where they all lived during the Manson murders, where the family was living before they went to Barker Ranch. And then I might try to find Barker Ranch as well. Which of those two aspects, me going solo or me seeking out Spahn and Barker Ranch, is more bizarre?
Well, okay, yeah, you took me on a ride here. I was thinking, like, wow, this is so beautiful. You're going to be able to experience Oasis and picturesque setting. Now all of a sudden I've got nightmares of the Manson family rolling through my head. So no, I think it's really cool, even if it's a solo trip. No, I think those Oasis concerts, especially from what I've heard, are really such a, I don't know, for lack of a better word, magical kind of experience. Even though you're there by yourself, you're going to be with so many people who are just like a good piece of humanity that you're not really there by yourself.
I probably should not tell any of them that previously in the day I went and found the Spahn and or Barker Ranch,
I was
correct?
going to say that would probably be the only situation that arises where you could be isolated out of all those great people.
Are you an Oasis fan?
I can't claim to be a huge Oasis fan, maybe a little bit like Steph White in your conversation with her a week or two ago, where I have an appreciation. But I do have some, like yourself, I have some other friends who are huge fans, friendly with a guy who's actually a sports talk radio host as well, who similarly went over there to across the pond to see a show. And I saw he had a great recap of it and thought it was like a life-changing experience.
Totally.
Sort of
it was
restoring
unbelievable.
his faith in, just like restoring faith in humanity. The play-by-play guy for the Baltimore Orioles on TV, Kevin Brown, I think his bio here on Twitter is that he is the world's biggest Oasis fan. He's a friend of mine. So I guess, I've got some time here on these road trips. I got to listen to some more Oasis.
I'm telling you. I'll send you a playlist. They're fabulous. They're absolutely fabulous. What do we guesstimate is the return date for Caitlin Clark? And I want to be clear, John Nolan, the radio play-by-play voice. I'm not putting you in the position here of speaking for the franchise. This is strictly prognostication. But when you look at the schedule, Eddie and I have talked about this. And Stephanie White, you probably heard mention the fact that, she's like, look, we've got to get her acclimated to practices before we then go in the game situation. Based on that, it would seem to me like the 17th, when they have 5 days to prepare, would be a kind of a nice soft landing spot. But is that stretching it too far?
Right. So actually, I think they have a game on the 17th on the road, and then there's the 5 days off, so the 22nd.
Okay, so the 22nd.
The Minnesota Lynx. Yep. So, yeah, I think what you're saying there is logical. I think there's been some reporting, like yesterday in Seattle, Caitlin had an individual workout since there wasn't a team practice before that afternoon game. So I think, that sort of seems to be a stepping stone. So, like the individual workouts and then trying to be reintegrated into the team workouts, as long as she's feeling well. So I think I'm with you on the logic and reason. And I guess one other factor to consider now, though, is like they definitely don't need a rusher, right? I mean, the team here has won 5 in a row.
Totally. And that
recently,
you
so that
do
helps,
wonder, John, if that plays into it, right?
Right. I think they already were at a position where, they got to have the long-term vision and, not rush at all regardless, but it certainly helps, right? Now you don't have to have any kind of, outside influence of feeling you're like, let's say all of a sudden this was going south the other way and now you're fighting just to make the playoffs. Yeah, it's going to be kind of human nature for everyone to maybe feel some pressure, but as it stands now, that would not be the case.
Their continued streak here with Aaliyah Boston of double-doubles. I think she had 16 and 12 last night. She has been a model of consistency for the Fever, John Nolan. Are they prioritizing feeding Aaliyah Boston, or is Aaliyah Boston getting her points and scheming within the offense almost as a byproduct of other stuff going on around her?
Right, yeah, I think you hit on it there. They're not forcing the ball to anyone, and game to game, you're going to see different, just based off the personnel that the other team has. I think you were talking about this with Steph recently, right? How like the WNBA has evolved, and so game to game, you're looking at unique matchups and unique styles. And so I think this team's just done a good job of showing that they can adapt. I mean, yesterday was a grinded out game in the 70s. Go back one of their wins here in this streak last week at home against Phoenix, one of the highest scoring games in franchise history, both teams. eclipsing 100 points. So, I think they're able to, and, that's one where they probably would have liked to have played better defense. They don't necessarily want to be giving up 100 plus, but, showing that they can adapt. And you have a player like Aaliyah who even over the course of a game in that one against Phoenix, she was held in check for a few quarters and then, boom, erupted in the fourth. So they're kind of just, for lack of a better description, maybe here, just like go with the flow. It's whoever's night or whoever's quarter even, based off what they're seeing from the defense, they're taking advantage of.
Eddie, are you burning the midnight oil tonight? Fever and LA 10 o'clock tip, right?
That's tomorrow night.
Is it tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night,
so
yes.
So are you burning the
Tomorrow,
midnight oil
yeah.
tomorrow night?
I will be, and then on Thursday night as well when they're in Phoenix at 10 o'clock.
Those West Coast games, man. I love that. I love the West Coast games. Again, Fever in action at LA tomorrow night. That is a 10 o'clock tip locally. Eddie will have the pre- and post-game. John will be on the radio call for it. When you look at it, John, as we kind of head down towards the final stretch of the season here, and I know record-wise, I mean, you talk about Minnesota, for example. Who would you say, in terms of the style of play or the personnel of play, is the one that most gives Indiana fits despite what the records may indicate?
It's a good question. I would say potentially New York when they're healthy, and currently Brianna Stewart is out for them right now, but New York has looked like the biggest juggernaut in the league. Like they probably, I would say, have the highest ceiling, even higher than Minnesota, despite the fact that Minnesota's in first. Because New York just can be overwhelming. Especially they just got Emma Miesemann, who's a former Finals MVP and All-Star who had been out of the WNBA playing over in Europe the last couple of years. She just made her Liberty debut yesterday, and that's adding more size to them because I would say they're, at least earlier in the season, there were some situations where teams were playing two posts at the same time. And the third-place team, Atlanta, is the one that comes to mind here because they got Brittany Griner and Bree Jones. They got multiple players there, 6'5" and taller. The Fever don't necessarily have that kind of size. But then, New York and Atlanta, for that matter, they have some top shooting guards as well, like Sabrina Ionescu in the case of New York and Alicia Gray for Atlanta. So, there's a reason that those are some of the winningest teams in the league.
Fever again in action tomorrow night taking on LA. John Nolan is the radio play-by-play voice. All right, John, you're going to have presumably the afternoon free here in LA. I want to know what John Nolan does in a free afternoon in LA, especially if you've never been to LA before.
Yep. So in the afternoon here, the team has practice, so our optional shooting at least. So checking that out. More so in the evening, I'm looking to get over to Dodger Stadium. And I got to T-Mobile Park to catch part of a Mariners game a couple days ago. I even went to a minor league baseball game in Texas. So I'm just being a baseball fan sicko here on this trip. Going to try to get to a game in Phoenix as well.
Here is my tip for you if you go to Dodger Stadium. You ready?
Yes.
It is a stadium where the views are so great that it doesn't really matter. I mean, tickets are going to be expensive no matter where you get them, but you absolutely need to do this. When you are in Dodger Stadium, this is a tip for anybody that goes to a game at Dodger Stadium. Take the escalators, or actually the escalators, to the very top level. I can't remember if it's escalators or elevators. I think it's an escalator. But you take it to the top level, the top tier of the stadium behind home plate, and you walk out, and there is the entire Chavez Ravine Stadium, at Dodger Stadium before you. But turn around and walk away from the stadium because Chavez Ravine is then directly behind you, and it is an unbelievable view of downtown Los Angeles and all of the canyons behind you. It is one of the most underrated views of the area of Los Angeles that you can see from right there at Dodger Stadium, and it's right behind home plate. There's my tip for you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I am planning to probably try to get something in the upper deck. But, I'll have to make sure to do the –
it's a great stadium.
And
if you have to get there early, don't worry about it because there is a ton to see. There is literally a ton of baseball history to walk around, see, check out. It is very cool. Very, very cool. And the Dodger dogs are overrated, but you got to get one. So there you go.
Okay.
All right,
cool.
I appreciate it, John.
I'll take it. All right, anytime, Jake. Thanks.
All right, John Nolan, the radio play-by-play voice of the Indiana Fever. Eddie, you have or have not been to Dodger Stadium?
I have not. Well, I take that back. I've been to Dodger Stadium, but there wasn't a game there.
Okay, fair.
went to the pro shop when we were out in San Diego. We went there, went to Los Angeles, I think for a couple days, and that was one of the things we wanted to do. So we went there and went to the pro shop and got to walk out on the concourse that's attached to it.
Yeah, that's cool. What is the name of the stadium that the Angels play in now? Is it Anaheim Stadium?
I think so.
I don't know, but they redid that a couple of years ago. I think it's kind of your cookie cutter stadium, but they have the rocks and the waterfalls out in the outfield. But when they redid the concourses,
Angel Stadium.
Okay, so when they redid it, I mean it's probably 15 years ago. A little of this goes a long way. All of the, at least from what I can recall, this is true of all of it. The concourse areas that you walk, like the concrete concourse areas, they now are that like hard rubber, like when you go to some like churches, like a basketball court that has like the hard rubber court.
Sure.
It's that surface instead of concrete. And when you walk on it, it's just like so much easier to walk on. Walking around and walking around the stadium, you'll realize these things after you turn 40. You're like, boy, this is wonderful on my ankles and knees. It's tremendous. Walk around and it's comfortable and it's forgiving. That's the best way to say it. It's forgiving. I thought of the baseball stadiums that I've been to, I thought Angel Stadium was one of the more underrated. I thought it was actually a really good park. I've told you I think Great America is a little overrated. No offense. Your favorite stadium you have been to, Eddie, because I know you're a huge baseball fan.
I've been to Seattle. I've been to St. Louis. I've been to Wrigley. Great American. There's another one. I've been to Dodger Stadium, but there wasn't a game played. I feel like I'm missing one, but I really enjoyed Seattle. I really enjoyed T-Mobile
nice.
Park.
Yeah, it's nice. Now, how's the cell connection?
Not bad.
I should hope. That would be an issue if it wasn't very good, right?
Well, you would think that if you were a T-Mobile customer, it would be an issue, but if you were all the other customers, then it could be problematic.
Well, for example, when NASCAR was the NASCAR Sprint Cup, and they would come in, like I was a Verizon customer, and when I would call races that was a NASCAR race, it was tough getting a signal.
I remember the other stadium I've been to. It was the old Ranger Stadium, Arlington Park.
Well, the Rangers have had 3 stadiums in the last 20 years, right? I mean, they're on a new one. The one that they just got rid of. So were you at the ballpark, the Arlington ballpark?
Yes, the one before Globe Life.
The Globe Life is the one they're currently in, right?
Yes.
The one right before it. Look this up. I don't think it lasted 20 years. I mean, it was still a new, nice ballpark, and they were built. I'm like, wait, they're already building a new one?
I'm sorry, Jake. They're currently at Globe Life Field.
Okay.
The previous one was Globe Life Park in Arlington.
And that how Globe Life Park in Arlington lasted how long?
25 years.
I mean,
1994 to 2019.
Yeah.
I went there in 19.
Now, how about this? Speaking of parks and stadiums, there's a factoid in relation to here in town and a team that just released its depth chart that will make you feel old. And I'll tell you that, and we'll go over the Colts depth chart next. Reminder on Wednesday, we'll be at the Indiana State Fairgrounds, Governor's Cup, first of two shows taking place out at the State Fairgrounds, and look forward to that. Harness racing at its best. Thursday, it is the golf outing.
Jake,
What's
you know
that?
what Thursday is, right?
Thursday's the golf outing, right?
Yes.
The Legends, 1075thefan.com. I'm assuming you can still sign up for the golf outing. All to benefit Franciscan Foundation, and we are thankful for that for certain. We were just talking about the park, the Texas Rangers, the ballpark or whatever it's called out in Arlington. Do you realize that? Do you know what September 20th is?
Is it the night before that Earth, Wind, and Fire song?
Do you remember? I think you're right. Yeah. 21st night of September. Isn't that what they say?
Uh-huh.
Good call. That's not it, though. Not the answer I'm looking for.
You said the 20th?
September the 20th.
That's 4 days before my birthday and 17 days after yours.
September the 20th will be the 20th. That is correct. 2 weeks after I see Oasis at the Rose Bowl. September 20th will be the 20-year anniversary of the breaking of ground of Lucas Oil Stadium.
And you think there's going to be urine flying through the air?
I'm curious of that. I don't think that's a tradition that will carry over to the Rose Bowl. Did you see that? I'm not making light of this. Someone tragically fell from the upper deck of Wembley Stadium at the Oasis show.
I did not see this.
And it said that part of the investigation was that the stairs were slippery from moisture of water and beer. They set a record, apparently, in Wembley for the number of, they went through 4,500 kegs in like 4 shows or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But at any rate, September the 20th will be the 20th anniversary of the breaking of ground of Lucas Oil Stadium. 20 years since they broke ground on it. Now, it opened 2.5 years after that. The reason that is, when you think about it and you're like, what? From the time that it broke ground to the time that it was back in the ground, the lifespan of the RCA Dome, the Hoosier Dome, 26 years. Meaning that we are now closing in on, we're 6 years away from Lucas Oil Stadium, from groundbreaking to lifespan, of being around longer than the RCA Dome.
Now, what's the contract on Lucas Oil? Through when?
It was 29, right? 40% of all non-football revenue goes back to the Colts. And I believe that was through 20, or a minimum payment from the Capital Improvement Board of per year of so many $1 million, but they always have to go with the latter because there's 40% of dollar generation for parking, concession, and non-football revenue. And I think that's through 29. They might have extended that.
Now, all this to ask, Jake, if/when they get a new stadium, where would it be?
Okay, great question. First off, you've opened a can of worms here, and I want to go back to, in no way, shape, or form is this having anything to do. It's the same with the Indy 11. When I talk about the Indy 11 stadium that they were trying to do, 11 Park, it has nothing to do with the Indy 11. I have nothing against I was a season ticket holder for the Indy 11, so I have nothing against them at all. And the same for the Colts. What I'm about to say is in no way, shape, or form an indictment or an attack on the Colts from a personal standpoint. It's just business. We're just talking business. And in terms of talking business, this city and its taxpayers have already exhausted themselves on publicly subsidizing sports facilities. And yes, I do a sports talk show. And yes, I understand the value of having sports in Indianapolis. I totally understand it. But when this city and its taxpayers were asked to come up with the most publicly subsidized building in the history of American sports, a building that had more tax dollars in it than Phoenix, New York, and trying to think of what in Dallas's stadiums combined. Indianapolis, television market 24, put more money into a building. And the reason why is because we were told this is it. This is the last time we're going to ask for this because this is a multi-purpose facility that is good for a lifetime. And so when we came up with $720 million tax dollars, that was it. Now, it is a fascinating question you ask, Eddie, because, and I certainly hope it's not in my lifetime, that they come up with a new stadium. Stadiums are a fascinating thing to me, and I think the logistics of Lucas Oil Stadium are awful. I think the walk around on the inside of it's terrible. It has the escalators of death. I mean, all of it, right? But we built it. It's perfectly functional. It's
and the people
multi-purpose.
come, Jake.
What's that?
And the people come, Jake.
That's right.
They
No,
most
you're right.
definitely come.
You're right. Having said all of that, it is a fascinating question that you ask because we are seeing now more and more the trend of professional sports buildings and properties going into the suburbs. You know, the Fishers Event Center is fantastic. I love it. It's a beautiful venue. It's beautiful. And you now see, Noblesville, they're going to have the Boom out there, playing out there. And this city has a long way to go towards revamping and revitalizing and rebirthing and reintroducing its downtown. And I love downtown Indianapolis, but it's got challenges. Partially being with work from home and everything else. I mean, there are a million layers to that onion. But you ask an interesting question of when the lifespan of Lucas Oil comes to an end, is it then going to be replaced by a stadium that is being built in, Whitestown or Thorntown or whatever the new bustling suburb is going to be? It's a fair question. Totally fair question.
Zionsville
probably, it's gone beyond that, right? I mean, the growth has gone further out now from Zionsville. I mean, we're not far from, it's not going to be long before Pendleton, basically, and Anderson are just suburbs. I know Anderson kind of is now. I mean, it's considered in the Indianapolis metropolitan area. But in your lifetime, maybe not mine, but in your lifetime, Indianapolis and Lafayette will eventually be connected. Watch. I mean, it's just the expansion continues to go. All right, Colts have released their unofficial depth chart. There's one position to me that was of intrigue, and for the most part, pretty much status quo. But we'll get into that and let you know what I'm talking about and a couple of areas where injury came into play. We'll do that, and we'll hand it off to John next. Read into it what you will, but the Colts have announced unofficially their first depth chart of the season. That's because they get underway Thursday night, preseason game number 1 with the Baltimore Ravens. Quarterback position simply says Daniel Jones or, all capital letters in boldface, Anthony Richardson. One of the things that was interesting to me was at the tight end position, because you have, no surprise, Tyler Warren, and then Mo Alley Cox second. But Drew Ogletree just ahead of Will Mallory was a little bit intriguing to me because Mallory's had a good camp. He has had a pretty good camp. But again, and then Jelani Woods is the 5th. And Jelani Woods, who they have been very patient towards, is listed as the 5th tight end. That was interesting to me. Also, Juju Brents and Jalen Jones. Jalen Jones behind Justin Wally on that side. And Juju Brent's also listed second, but those guys both having hamstring injuries. But they look like they're going to be pretty deep at the corner position, but that depth is being tested already. No question about that. Eddie, I'm a little bit surprised, by the way, that we are this far into the show and you've made no mention of my T-shirt.
So I've been meaning to bring this up. People in the chat have been asking about what it means. Eddie would go? Eddie would go where? Okay,
so I told you about my buddy Rob DeMello in Hawaii, right? Eddie Akau is to Hawaiian culture what Damon Bailey is in Indiana, or Oscar Robertson in Indiana. Eddie Akau was an accomplished, basically just an aquatic star in Hawaii. He was a native Hawaiian whose family was of Polynesian culture, and he was the first civic appointed lifeguard of Waikiki Beach, and he was known as he was a prolific surfer. But in addition to being a prolific surfer, he was a prolific swimmer and, lifeguard. He had more lifeguard savings, I believe, in Waikiki Beach of anybody of all time. And I'm going to guesstimate on my years here, but in the early 80s, late 70s or early 80s, there was a group of Polynesian people in Hawaii that wanted to do a maritime sail from Hawaii to Polynesia by following the stars, basically to eradicate the stereotype of an inferiority complex they had. And so they selected Eddie Akau to ride with them on this boat, and it capsized like a day into the journey. And as they were waiting for rescue, Eddie Akau was like, I can ride one of these logs and surf back for help. And so he went to go do so, and they had no problem letting him do so because they're like, Eddie is the one guy that could do that. If there is turmoil, Eddie would go. And so Eddie Akau took off, and shortly thereafter, they were rescued, and it led to the largest maritime rescue search in Hawaiian history, but they never found him. And the Hawaiian culture and legend is that it was fitting because he was returned to the place where he was indigenous, which was the sea. So the shirt, I don't even know where I saw it, but I saw the shirt that just says Eddie would go with the Hawaiian logo on it, and his story was so awesome to me that I bought the shirt. John, by the way, is here with his
My
Vans
shirt is
shirt on.
recognizable because Jeff Spicoli wore the shoes in 1982 in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. The explanation is much shorter.
That's right. Jeff Spicoli, Vans were so popular then anyway.
Did you have Vans back then?
No, and I was one of the few that
had
didn't.
Pro Keds.
Yeah,
the Tom McCann cheap versions.
Yeah, Tom McCann's. Yeah, of course.
Was problematic for me right there. I should have had a pair of tracks.
Hold on. Let me ask you this. Who made Stadia? Was that also Tom McCann? Or was that Kenny's shoes?
No, I think Stadia was just
Kenny's
its
shoes,
own, right?
Or was it its own
Kenny?
brand? I think Kenny made Stadias. Did you have Stride Right when you were like a
Stride
kindergartner?
Right, yep.
Zips, Stride Right Zips.
How many in our audience right now actually wore tracks to school and probably got their ass whipped?
5%.
Yeah,
that was
unfortunate
a rough go.
back then.
That was a rough go.
Was the extra stripe?
Okay, I've always wondered this. When I was a kid, we used to sing a song, Buddies, cost less than a dime. And Buddies was the name, the name of like generic tennis shoes. People would just call them Buddies.
I thought you were talking about My Buddy, the toy.
My buddy.
We played that for Buddy when you left.
Huh?
We played that when Buddy got traded.
My
remember?
buddy and me will climb up a tree.
But Buddy's tennis shoes We used to call like cheap tennis shoes buddies. Now, was that an actual brand or was that just a generic nickname we used?
I had something from Sears called the Winners 2. And they had the tread that went all the way up the back.
Okay.
Back of the heel of it.
Yeah, like
So-
these. Like these.
Yeah. So the Winners 2. I didn't
Okay.
wear those. Those were the equivalent of Tracks or Tom
you have
McCann
Tough Skins?
shoes. I wore Tough Skins in the Husky version.
Yeah, Huskies.
Which is better to say. Go over here where the fat guys are all going.
The big kids had Husky jeans. And
That's good.
the Tough Skins. Remember the Tough Skins, though? The selling point was that there was extra like denim in the knees so that when you were like sliding across the gym floor or whatever else.
Let's get a strawberry and you wouldn't like put a hole in your pants.
That's
or anything
exactly
like that.
correct, yeah.
Hey, how much is the Ursay place selling for?
It was selling for $12 million, and my understanding is a cash offer has been made. It is pending for over the $12 million. They went over the asking price, and I don't think inspection. I think it was sight unseen.
No inspection?
It was sight unseen.
Well, wait a minute. What happened if they have roof damage, Eddie? From hail. They could have hail damage out there.
I know.
Can you imagine they pulled an inspection on this building? It was up for sale for $35 million. They're going to get like $1.50 for this thing when it's said and done.
Wow.
As soon as somebody flushes the toilet, it sounds like Doc Severinsen onto the Tonight Show.
Listen, when we leave this building, though, I'm going to do everything I can to keep my parking card.
I love the parking pass is the real only redeeming quality. It is.
It's the best.
Because of the location. The parking, it's secure parking. And then you can go down there, and sometimes the pipe bursts, and it's like flash dance when you walk to your car.
That there's a leaking pipe down there when you drive through.
What?
It's like the Goonies, because I park 2 floors. I park in the basement, and you go through, and there's this one pipe that has
what was
water
the pipe
coming through.
spraying? What kind of water was it? Was it drinkable water?
That's a good.
Or was it the toilet flush?
It was like a mist, though, right? Like I kept looking for.
It's like flash dance. I kind of want to get in the chair and just like stand underneath it.
I'm looking for Chunk and Sloth, like hanging out with a baby Ruth underneath the water slide. It's awesome.
But they
It's
want
awesome,
35 mil for this. Would you rather have Ursay's estate or this building for 35 mil?
Well, does the parking spot come with the building?
Ursay's estate's pretty awesome.
It is, but the parking spot downtown's equally awesome.
But the escalator doesn't work. And then the level 4 button never has a light that works.
If the escalator doesn't work, it's temporarily stairs. We apologize for the convenience.
I don't think it's ever worked since I've never ridden. Have you guys ever ridden on that escalator?
I have.
One time. I've never ridden on the escalator.
Who was it from Jackass got kicked out of the building for doing a
Stevie O.
handstand?
He was in with us. Steve O.
He did a handstand down the
Steve O
escalator,
was
right?
in here, did a handstand and got kicked out.
Yeah. John's up next.
See ya.
Big show lined up?
Probably not, but we'll see.
All right. John's up next in his Vans shirt. We'll be back with you at noon tomorrow. I thank you for listening to Query & Company.